Hello again, this is Hal from Light Photographic Workshops, and I'm just here at Light thinking about a little video tutorial that we gave last night to some of our web seminar folks, and I thought I would share that with everyone else here also. This is a retouching technique primarily for portraits, but you can find some application for this in other disciplines, whether it be landscape, action, wildlife, whatever. This might work for you, but definitely within portraiture. The technique is a derivative of one that a gentleman named Tapp uses to create a soft focus effect. This one is still soft focus, but we call it the Rembrandt soft focus effect. To get this, we'll take your image, whatever image you might have is going to be fine, bring it open into Photoshop. Here you see we're working the interface with CS4. Before we start anything else, I want you to take a look at the file size in megabytes. Here we're seeing it's roughly 31. Having that data in hand, and sometimes you might need to write it down, go ahead and grab your background layer and duplicate it. Now you can do that by dragging down the layer to the create a new layer icon, or you could also use the keyboard shortcut of Control or Command J to jump the layer. First step after we duplicate the layer is to give it a new name, and I'll call this one Multiply, and that tells me a little hint as to how I'm going to change the blend mode in just a moment. But before I can change from normal to the multiply blend mode, I do want to go up and run a Gaussian blur filter. So go to the menu bar, Filter, Blur, Gaussian, and I'll make sure that in the radius of pixels I put the document size in megabytes, so roughly 31, and click OK. At this point, I'll go up to our blend modes and switch from normal to multiply. As I toggle this layer on and off, we can see the effect that this multiply has. With the Gaussian blur, it gives us a little bit of softness, but also increases contrast, darkens the whole image, adds a little bit of saturation and richness. Very similar to what we saw within some of Rembrandt's works years and years ago. Next step is to grab the layer opacity and bring it down. Where we like to start in most cases is about 60 to 70% opacity. I'll leave it at 60 for this example. The next step is to grab our multiply layer and copy it again. Same options available to you. Once you have that new layer, I'd like you to name it Lighten. And that tells us that we're going to switch the blend mode from multiply to lighten. When we do that, notice that we get a noticeable lightening of the image as well as more of a soft focus. And I'll toggle that visibility icon on and on. So to see the overall effect, I'll hold down the Alt or the Option key and click on the background visibility icon, and we'll see there's a before and there's the after. Now very rarely do we want to take this entire soft focus, or Rembrandt soft focus effect, and apply it equally across our image. So let's create a mask in order to go in and selectively choose where we want to apply the effect. To do this, we needed to make sure the lighten and multiply layers are both using the same mask. So to do that, we'll create a group. I'll click on my lighten layer, shift click onto multiply, and then drag them down into the new group icon. Once they're in the group, I'm going to rename. I'm going to call that my just Rem soft focus for Rembrandt soft focus, and to this I will add a layer mask. We notice the layer mask comes up all white. So now it's time just to go in and paint with black. So we grab our brush tool, making sure the brush is nice and soft. I'm going to go in with an opacity roughly of 20% at first and start to do bigger areas on the image. The tendency with this effect is you would come in and just do the eyes and maybe the lips to balance those eyes out, but you end up with a little bit buggy looking portrait. So I'll bring in just a little bit at reduced opacity here and there. Throughout this process, you're always going to be resizing that brush with the left or right bracket keys and also switching opacity. Remember, the simplest thing to use there is just your number keys. So I'm going to use just a 15, which is down to 15%, and throw just a little bit up onto the hair as well. Now, if I want to get in more detail, I'll do so by resizing my brush, potentially zooming in a little bit to our model's eyes. And at a 30% opacity brush, I'll begin to bring back in a little bit of those eyes, eyelashes, balance that out just a hint, maybe by bringing our lips back slightly, and then a hint more on the eyes. You can continue this process and bring back any portion of the image that you'd like to remove just a bit of that soft focus from. But ultimately you end up with a nice soft focus effect that you can select where exactly you want it and where you don't. And at the same time, we have just a little bit of additional contrast, a little bit of saturation, a little bit more depth, and I think it sometimes can make a very interesting portrait. So to show this before and after, all in all, we will click the group visibility icon on and off, and there's our before, and there is our after with a Rembrandt soft focus. Hopefully you'll be able to use some type of effect like this in your future workflow. If you have any other additional questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to give us a call here at Light 805-528-7385, or you can always reach me, of course, Hal at lightworkshops.com. Have a great day.